Yeah, and I know that they care enough about the movie that if something sounded crappy, they'd probably write me back and go, hey, can we get this line again, or can you give us a couple of variations on this? In fact, just last week, they had forgotten to put a bunch of effort noises, like jumping, or hitting the ground, or swinging, throwing a punch, or something like that. They forgot to tell me about that. So they sent me an email like, can you please record us 5 jumps, 5 landings, 3 punches, so I did all that and it sent it to me. It's boy time. Wait, am I okay asking you?
I promise.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so when you're getting ready to go and record or act in general, because you are also an actor, what's your best motivation for getting the character? Say it'd be like Edward, who's angry all the time, or and I was going to not here to as well, but
Sorry? What was the last thing you said?
No, because there's only 2 minutes.
all right, so the one question.
Just answer the right question.
Yes. You know what? One of the downsides of voice acting is you don't get a lot of time to prepare. Time is money. When you're renting a recording studio, you're paying an engineer, you're paying an actor, and you're paying a director. Like, the quicker you can do your job, the more they like you. If you can record 25 lines in an hour, that's great. But if there's a guy that can record 40 lines an hour, they like that. You know what I mean? So you don't get a lot of time to advance, this research and this kind of. You go in from the beginning. You go in, you take a look at the character. I mean, what he looks like is often very communicating, right? Of what kind of person he is. Then you may listen to the Japanese actor who did it the first time. Sometimes you use that as a reference, sometimes you don't. It really depends on what the director wants, it depends on what the Japanese company that created the show. For instance, there are some shows that the Japanese company will say, here, have at it. Do whatever you want. It didn't do very well here, we don't care. Make it funny, cast different voices, it doesn't matter to us. Then there are shows like Vampire Night, shows that the Japanese companies really, they want to make sure that the voices in English sound like they want them to sound. And they even end up casting the shows. Literally. Like Funimation did not necessarily cast the lead characters in Full Metal. Funimation gathered the auditions and sent their 5 top picks, their 3 top picks for Ed, Henry, Al, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Sent them to the Japanese company that made Full Metal, and then they made their choice from that short list. So it really depends sometimes on how important the show is to the creators. So maybe the Japanese original, the character's look and attitude, the director's vision for the character, and then also the actor's vision for the character. So those things go into choosing what you want them to sound like from the beginning, and then of course once you set it, then that's what you do every time. And sometimes long periods of time will go by between when you recorded a show, like the first 3 episodes, and then you don't come back for 6 months, and then they bring you back for more episodes, and you're like, I have no idea what I did with this character. I don't remember what I did. So they'll play you an audio recording from the first time you did it to help people know. Yes, in the back.
Do you and the Full Metal cast ever get back together and do like little?
You know what? I would love to say that we do. We don't, because I don't know if you guys know this, but we don't record at the same time.
Yeah.
We record alone, which means that conceivably you could do an entire show and never meet the people that are in the show with you.
That's like conventions.
Pardon me?
That's like conventions.
Oh yeah, in fact, the majority of time that I have spent with other actors is at conventions. That's where we get to meet and hang out. And I'll tell you, when I first met Aaron, was at Dallas, at Acon in Dallas. We had just started recording Full Metal. I'd heard his voice, but I'd never met him. They told me he's a 12-year-old kid, blah, blah, blah. He was in Fruits Basket. He was in this. He's a great little kid. And I had been wanting to meet him. But we had recorded, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12 episodes, and I still had never met the kid. So I was a guest at Acon, and somebody said, you know, Aaron's here this weekend with his mom and his little brother. So I asked him to help me find him because I wanted to meet him. And when we finally found him, I went running up to him and hugged him. Yeah, right? It's like, Mom! Stranger danger! But, and then, and we became great friends. He became like a little brother to me. And I'm not joking. Like when I go to Dallas, now he's this tall. When I go to Dallas, like he'll be like, hey, I just got a new car, you want to take a ride? And and we'll tool around in his car before he wrecks it. He's wrecked 3 cars now. He drives like Alphonse. And like he's working on a couple of things at Funimation now, and I'll see him in the hallway or something. I've become very dear friends with a lot of those people, but not because we record together, only because we see each other maybe passing the studio, or we see each other at conventions. Caitlin and I are very close, and Travis, Laura, Mike McFarland, Jamie, yeah, we've spent time together at conventions. I'll tell you something that may make you go, you're kidding. The woman who played Trisha Elric, Ed and Al's mom, I've never met her. Like to this day, I've never met her. I have no idea what she looks like. She could look like this guy. Because how many lines does Trisha Elric have? Not a lot, right? Which means she's in and she's out. And if I don't happen to be there during that hour and a half that they needed her to record her whole performance, I'll never see her. And if she doesn't do conventions, I won't meet her. And she doesn't. So it's really kind of sad. And it's weird because you hear their voices, you know what I mean? You hear all these actors in your head, you feel like you know them. I heard Travis, Willingham, who played Mustang, and I hear these voices for 10, 20, 30 episodes, and then you finally meet them. You feel like you've known them forever. You never met them. It's a really interesting thing. It's very different than stage acting. It's extremely different than theater acting. Because in theater, you're on stage with the people. You're interacting with them. You're looking them right in the face. You know what I mean? You're performing on stage with them. But voice acting, you're completely by yourself, which is one of the challenges to it. And that is to make it sound like you're actually talking to people and you're interacting and connecting with them when you're really not.
Speaking of not interacting with people, I'm going to be the asshole. We're done questions.